The Cosori TwinFry is at last available in the UK and ready to rival the Ninja Flexdrawer. But is it as good as, or maybe even better than the market leader? In this video, you'll find out everything you need to know. So first of all, just so you know, this air fryer was gifted to me by Cosori, but no money changed hands and they have no control over what I say in the video. If you want to see particular information about this air fryer, the times of the different sections of this video are on the screen right now and in the description below, so you can skip around and find exactly what you want. The Cosori TwinFry is a single drawer air fryer with a divider that promises you the best of both worlds. A really big single drawer where you can comfortably fit a joint for roasting, and a divider which cuts the drawer in half and creates two separate zones which you can heat to two different temperatures. There are two big added features on this Cosori over and above the Ninja. Firstly, they've taken the technology from the dual blaze and given this model not two but four heating elements, two above and two below. And it's also Wi-Fi enabled, which means you can use it with an app. The idea behind the heating elements above and below is that it's supposed to do away with the need to shake the contents of the air fryer drawer. And this makes particular sense on this model because depending on the contents of your drawer, you can't always shake everything. For instance, if you have salmon fillets one side and potatoes the other, and you shake the whole drawer, you'll end up shaking the salmon fillets apart while you try to even out the browning of the potatoes. In an earlier video, I did some tests with the dual blaze, which is the original model with this technology, and it does actually brown more evenly without shaking than my dual basket Cosori. But what about this model? I did a couple of tests. First was a batch of frozen chips, 15 minutes on air fry at 200 Celsius with no shaking or moving, and this was the result. A really good even browning all over, so those lower heating elements did an excellent job. But then I also happened to try sausages when I was making a meal, and they fared less well. Now maybe it was because they were packed in quite tightly in one half of the drawer, but they did need turning with tongs to ensure that they were browned evenly. You probably know by now, but the key to successfully air frying is not overfilling the drawer and allowing heat to circulate properly around the food. And this is probably a good example of what happens if you do overfill. The potatoes on the other side of the drawer did not have this problem. The other big feature of this model is that it's a smart air fryer. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to use it with an app. You can just ignore that functionality if you want. But if you do want to use it, you turn the air fryer on and press and hold the power button until it goes into the pairing mode. You'll then see the Wi-Fi symbol on the top right of the display. Then in the app, you select the plus sign to add your air fryer and it should detect it. In the app, you can program the drawer in individual zones or together. And you also have access to a big library of cooking times and temperatures. Just select what you're cooking and the weight, and it will tell you what time and temperature to cook it at. The default in the app is for weights in ounces, but you can go into the settings and change that to grams if you prefer. There are 6 different cooking functions on this model: air fry, which is full power top and bottom, roast, which is also full power top and bottom and the same temperature range but a longer time range, bake, which is medium power on top and full power on bottom, grill, which is only heat from the top, reheat, which is medium heat top and bottom, and dry or dehydrate, which is low heat top and bottom. There's also options to match and sync, which allow you to duplicate settings on one half of the drawer and set both halves so they finish at exactly the same time. They've opted to call the big full basket cooking area the grand zone, and you can choose between that and zone 1 or 2 on the bottom of the display. There's no preheat on this model, and of course no shake reminder either, because in theory you don't need it. A bonus of the TwinFry's design is that the drawer has an entirely flat bottom, unlike the Ninja, which has a ridge which runs front to back and limits the kind of dishes you can fit in when you aren't using the crisper plates. The crisper plates themselves are straight on one side and curved on the other. So you have a right way and a wrong way that can go in the drawer, but they are numbered to match the inside of the drawer, so it's pretty easy to get the hang of it. Now, if you're interested about the cost of running this model, I've recently started doing a test on new models I review where I run them for 10 minutes at 200 Celsius on air fry. You might assume that double the heating elements would make the TwinFry more expensive to use, but in my test it used 0.148 kilowatt hours with one half of the drawer running and 0.260 kilowatt hours with both halves running, which is actually less than running both drawers of the Ninja AF400. So what are the downsides of this model? Well, firstly, as far as I can tell, the divider is exactly the same as the divider in the Flexdrawer, and although it keeps food separated, you do get some heat bleed between the two zones. I tested the TwinFry with the left side of the drawer running on air fry at 205 Celsius and the right side on bake at 160. And after 10 minutes, the left side was at 205, but the right was at 175, which is 15 degrees higher than I set it for. So you might be wondering if you can get round that by perhaps setting the second half of the drawer at a lower temperature to compensate for the heat bleed. So I tried that too. 205 on the left again and 140 on the right, and after 10 minutes the right drawer was at 155, so 15 degrees over again. So my conclusion is you do get heat bleed, you do need to be aware of it, but you can probably get around it by adjusting the temperature of the cooler half of the drawer to compensate for it. Other than the heat bleed, there are a couple of things about having a big drawer that you have to bear in mind. Firstly, it's a little bit awkward to wash up. I've moved house since I reviewed the Flexdrawer and I now have an even shallower sink. So one of these big drawers is even more challenging. It's not a deal breaker on its own, just a challenge. And of course, even if you only use one half of it to cook in, you'll still be washing up the whole big drawer every time. Then there's the fact that you can't easily pour the contents out if you have different things in both sides. And even if you're using the whole drawer to cook exactly the same thing, it's still a little bit awkward to tip up without spilling anything. Another thing that occurred to me whilst I've been using this Cosori TwinFry, which would also apply to the Flexdrawer, is that if you want to add the contents of one side of the drawer midway through cooking, you have to pause the side that is already cooking whilst you're doing that. And of course pull the whole drawer out, which lets all the heat escape. And it's a small thing, but the removable divider is easy to lose. And it's also really easy to do a double take when you see it out of the corner of your eye and it's in the middle of the food prep and it looks just like a tablet. So where does this leave you? Well, first of all, the TwinFry is primarily a single drawer air fryer. The divider is imperfect. It's best when you're cooking two things that are very close in temperature. But as we saw, in theory, you can get round heat bleed, particularly as you get to know your air fryer with repeated use. So if the issues I've mentioned aren't problems for you and you want this style of air fryer, you're going to want to know whether to go for the Flexdrawer or the TwinFry. And my vote goes to the TwinFry because the double heating elements, which I admit I thought were a little bit of a gimmick on the Dual Blaze, actually serve a good purpose on this model. And of course it's a smart air fryer as well and not more expensive to run, it turns out. The bad news is it is a little bit more expensive to buy than the Ninja, but have a look in the description below for some details of an offer which is coming up next month. And one final thought, in the next few weeks I'm going to be reviewing the Duronic AF34, which is a 10-litre air fryer like this, with both a large single drawer and two smaller drawers which you can swap around. So if you're interested in seeing that review, make sure you subscribe and hit the notifications so you'll know when it's published. Thanks for watching.